Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Better Love Movement podcast. My name is Anita Stoudemire. I am your resident love mentor and licensed professional therapist here hosting this week's podcast and every week's podcast. This episode is number 126, and it is entitled Prioritize Your Safety When Dating Online. Today, I am talking to Mark Brooks, a dating industry expert from RealMe. Let me tell you a little bit about Mark. So, Mark Brooks is RealMe's dating industry expert. Mark has been working in the online dating world since 2005 and has worked with 110 dating companies and service providers throughout his career. He is also the founder of IDEA, which is Internet Dating Excellence Association, an organization that helps online dating companies evolve and grow. Let me tell you a little bit about RealMe. So, RealMe is an online reputation platform dedicated to cultivating safety and trust online, building a new era of trust and transparency across the U.S. internet. RealMe's integration empowers users with trustworthy reputation and background information, profile verification through instant access to more than 275 million verified reputation profiles. RealMe's platform uses public records to source background information that can include criminal, financial, legal records, sex offender status, personal reviews, and more to make online interactions and transactions safer while empowering consumers to manage their own online reputation. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Anita. Great to be here. Thank you for having me on the
Yes,
show.
yes. So, Mark, welcome to the podcast. Tell my listeners a little bit more about yourself.
Well, I've been immersed in the business of love and internet dating since, well, it's over 20 years now.
Wow.
I originally got involved by starting an adventure club in Silicon Valley,
Hmm.
and a strange thing started happening. People started getting married. It wasn't really a singles club, but it turns out it was a singles club that wouldn't admit to being a singles club. And
Wow.
I thought, well, that's a lot of responsibility. It's really quite impactful what I'm doing here, bringing people together like this. And 95% of the club was single, and it just got me hooked.
Wow.
And I've
That's
been hooked
awesome.
ever since. I can't really focus on anything else because nothing else I can think of has more impact. So I got rolling in the dating industry, worked with some, actually worked with Friendster years ago. And then I went to work with Friend Finder, and then I was at
Mm,
Cupid, and then I got 3 job offers, and I took them all and started an agency back in 2005 and never looked back. And now I've got a
awesome.
team of people that I've recruited over the years. We're entirely myopic to the dating industry, and we help out internet dating companies and some online social communities. And we also help best-in-class vendors, which is what RealMe is. And we're helping them get around the industry. I'm proud to be working with them and helping them make the web a safer place.
Awesome. Because I know here on my platform, I've talked to my ladies quite a bit about utilizing online dating and dating apps, but doing so safely. That is super, super important. Is that especially, most of my listeners are women. So I tell them, you're going to use all of the tips and tools that you have at your disposal to make sure that you're staying safe while you're out there interacting with people.
Gotcha. Yes, absolutely. It's paramount. It's a funny thing, actually, what the difference is between a social network and a dating app. Social networks introduce you to, well, keep you in contact with people you already know, by and
Hmm.
large. And the difference with internet dating apps is that we're introducing you to new people that you
Hmm.
do not know, that you are not connected with, that you might not have a friend who's connected with.
Right.
So that's the key differentiator for the entire industry, is that our dynamic is different. And of course, with that comes some responsibility because, well, you don't know these people.
Right.
And there's a very high emotional, you're really putting yourself out there, right?
Hmm.
You're vulnerable when you go and meet someone for the first time. There is an element of vulnerability there. And it's our responsibility, our key driver, to keep our users safer. In fact, there was a survey that RealMe did of over 1,000 internet dating executives, and they found that safety and security are paramount.
Hmm.
And the number 2 most requested uh, feature what for them that they recognized was a verification checks, basically, just
Right.
making sure people who say they are who they say they are.
Right.
Nothing can foul a date faster than showing up on a date and not recognizing the person in front of you, and or
Right.
that's what we try and help people avoid.
Okay. So tell me more about RealMe and how their service works in particular.
So, America's a very interesting place. In a lot of your records are public. I'm talking to you with
Mhm.
an English accent. It's a little bit different
Mhm.
in England. I actually spent most of my adult life in America, so
Okay.
so I could do the English accent, the American accent.
Right.
Putting the American hat on there, I must say, it's interesting that a lot of this information is publicly available, but it's a real
Mhm.
hodgepodge, right? So if you want to know if someone is who they really are, you can do that with a very high certainty in the USA. And if you want to know if someone is a felon, you can
Mm.
do that with a
Yep.
very high certainty.
Yep.
Also, sex offender databases are very well established,
Right.
right? But it's a real hodgepodge of databases. And so what the Real Me has done beautifully is brought this hodgepodge of data together, and they've brought it together under under Real Me. There's 275 million people that they've got records on,
Wow.
and are constantly building. And so what they're trying to do, what they do, is provide some certainty, some
Mm.
verification, some authentication of the person that you're about to meet.
Wow.
We all think that that's super important in this particular context of dating, of course,
Mhm.
because you are putting yourself out there and you don't really know who you're meeting. So it's our responsibility within the dating industry to help people have more reassurance. And it's not really something that is entirely within the remit of a dating app. Because,
Mhm.
I'm putting two hats on here. I represent the
Mhm.
dating industry, but I also represent Real Me. So
Yeah.
putting my dating hat on, we know we should be doing this, but we're
Mhm.
not sure of the right tools to be doing this. And it's something that's like, it's a lot of responsibility. And so what Real Me has done is come in and said, well, we can help dating apps take this very high responsibility area of responsibility and deliver data on a very qualified historical. They've got the ability to pull this hodgepodge of data together so it's meaningful within the dating context. Um,
Mm.
so basically, in the future, we hope there are a couple of apps that it's live on now, by the way, Bristler and Mingle too. But basically, in the future, we hope that you'll be able to go on a dating app and look at a profile and say, you know what, I'm not going to search on Google. I want to search on this little link here on the profile, which gives me
Okay.
more assurance than Google. Because
Yeah.
everybody's looking on Google.
Yeah. I mean, and
But is that
that's
the best
that
place?
right. And I mean, that's where I tell a lot of my ladies to go or to hire a place that does background checks. I do encourage them to, at minimum, you should be Googling, you should be searching all of the social media platforms. What I like about that is you can at least find out, it's to me some very basic information, like if the man is married. To
Yeah,
me, if you find him on Facebook and it says married and there's a picture of him with a woman,
right.
like that's probably the case. So at minimum, now, like you were saying, I want my ladies to dive deeper. I want them to know if this person is a felon or if this person's on the sex offender registry. If they wanted to know if he had any major liens against him or tax liens, I think that's good information to know. But I always say, at minimum, like you said, here in America, a lot of this information is public record. You
Yeah.
can kind of look it up, but I like the idea of, like you said, it's all there in one place. You don't have to go to a lot of different places. You can just click on that link in the dating profile. So I love
Yeah.
that.
We're in the information age.
Yep.
We should be providing more information.
I
So
agree. I agree.
it's out
Okay.
there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unusually, in the USA, it's out there. Many countries, it's not.
Mm,
But yeah, it's almost irresponsible not to make this available, really.
right. Right. So, do you have any personal tips or tools as a dating expert for my listeners just to keep them safe while they're dating online? What are some of
Sure,
the
absolutely,
the
yeah.
tips that you have?
Well, there's tips and there's tools. I gave you one tool, RealMe, right?
Yep.
That's an absolute.
Yep.
There's your background. If you can find a dating app that's got RealMe on it, I recommend using it and using the resources that are available with RealMe. Now, when it comes to tips, there's a few basics that people sometimes get wrong. I think it's very easy to let your guard down, right? You've been chatting with somebody for a while through the app, ideally. One thing that all dating apps really want you to stay on the app. And that's not just so they can monetize you. It's actually because we can keep you safe, right? And here's why. Scammers are on dating apps. And the first thing a scammer will try and do if they've got you on the hook is get you off the dating app. And the reason what they want you off the dating app is so that they can do their thing and they can reel you in over the period of months. And the dating app has no clue, right? We do have the ability to look at forms of communication. We look at certain patterns like wire, for example. If we see the word wire in a communication, like that, this is not a word that you use when you're talking to someone that you're trying to date. Right. So there are certain keywords and bad words that are super easy for it to look for as a flag, as a matter of course, right? So basically, there are 4 forms of abuse on dating apps. There's the scammers, the spammers, the obscene, and the obnoxious. And there's a couple of ways that we look for these roguish behaviors, and that is with the automated routines. We're looking at bad words, we're looking at behavior patterns. Then we're also looking at user flagging, right? So if a user's had a bad experience, they can flag, right? But the worst thing for us is when someone has had a bad experience, but they're 6 months down the road. They've been off the app, they've been chatting with someone for 6 months, they've been thoroughly reeled in, they've even done video calls on Skype, and then the asks start happening. It could be as simple as, I'm short on funds this week. I got something terrible happened. I need $100. Once the wallet is open, then the wallet gets levered open further. It's a slippery slope, basically. And some people have lost 6 figures. It can get that bad because there's been that long time of investment, of emotional involvement, and scammers are very good at what they do. And unfortunately, there's more scamming activity. It's a cottage industry. And unfortunately, there's not less of it, there's more of this happening. So in short, the tip is just, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. Be careful with that. Stay on the app so that we can do our job, helping you and also helping others. If you've had a bad experience, indicate that so that others do not, right? It's kind of a statistical thing for us. If a number of people have a bad experience, we know we got to either remove that bad actor very quickly, or we've at least got to quarantine them. Right? So we look at their behaviors. We kind of, a number of people are complaining about this particular person. We're going to quarantine them, and we're going to hold them back from really getting involved with more people until we just make sure, are they good or bad? And if they're bad, we kick them off. And then here's the kicker. We have ways to make sure that they don't come back on. Right? So all of these, we've got so many protections. We have to do so much work to keep our users safe. It's a crying shame when people jump off the app. We've got no recourse. We've got no visibility on what's going on, and we can't protect the future users. So number one thing, stay on the app, right? Then we can do our job. We can protect you. We can protect the people that come after you, most importantly, and we keep the entire platform safer. So that's a biggie. The other thing is, when you're going out on a date, let someone know, where are you going to go? Where roughly when do you think you'll be home? And arrange for that call. Arrange for that call, an hour into the date. There used to be a wonderful app, which I thought was quite amusing, called Get Moo. And it stood for Get Me Out of Here. And you can actually program this app to call you at a certain time and say, "Oh, the house is on fire. You've got to go. Come back." Or,
I love it.
It would actually say that on the phone. It'd be a recorded message, and so that you had the option of getting yourself out of there. Just if you're not having the best experience, it gives you the opportunity when you get an incoming call, say, "Oh, I've got to just take this." And then you can either continue with the date and dismiss the call, or you can dismiss yourself out of the date.
Right.
It's nice to have that get me out of here. The app's gone, unfortunately, but the tip isn't. It's not a bad thing to do, to let someone know where you will be, who you'll be with,
Mm-hmm.
when you'll be back, when you'd like to have that call. So you've got the get move call lined up,
Right.
the safety call. And if they don't pick up, well, you've got someone at least who knows who you're out with
Right.
and where you were, right?
Right.
You've got a bit of a safety net there. Um, don't make that first meeting somewhere, you're not going to have people come to your apartment. You're going to
Right.
meet in a public place with people around you.
Exactly.
How much you think you know that person, you don't really know them until you've met them. Even when you've met them, you don't really know
We
them,
know them. That's right.
right? So
That's right.
don't let your guard down too soon. Um, let things take a natural course. Meet some of the friends, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
You let your gut tell you what to do, not your heart. Slow
Right.
down a wee bit,
Right.
right? And don't give out personally identifiable information too soon. Your
Mm-hmm.
telephone number, your home address, your work address. It's the generally expected thing from a good interaction. You meet someone online, you spend a bit of time with them, and then you build up in not too long a period of time to an actual face-to-face meeting.
Right.
Now, thankfully, as we're coming out of this pandemic, that's possible. Um, but still keep the PII, the personally identifiable information to yourself until you're good and ready, until your head is telling you, is screaming at you. It's like, this is good,
Yeah.
not your heart, because your
Right.
heart may well mislead you. Be careful.
It can. Great tips. We have talked about a lot of those. One of my favorites is I have girlfriends screenshot the man's like profile.
Great, great.
They screenshot the man's profile, they send it to me. I'm going out with him tonight. We're going here, and I have it. Like I have a picture. So
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, and I've been encouraging women to do that, which is just go in the app, screenshot that profile pic or, a little information that's in there, send it to your friend. Hey, this is the guy I'm going out with tonight at this time, at this place. And if she does not come back, you have at least a starting point, which is that
yeah,
person's picture and some information on his profile.
that's
So,
wonderful.
yep.
Good.
But I've been encouraging women to do that more, share, your experiences on dating apps, share those profile pictures if you're going out. Because again, for my lady listeners, I want them to stay safe. That is to me the number one priority. Yeah, you might go out and meet your husband, but I need you to be safe doing it.
Absolutely, yes.
Yep, I
Absolutely. It's
agree.
absolutely paramount, isn't it?
Yep, it
Yeah.
is.
It's one of those things, it doesn't happen so often, but
Hmm.
when it happens,
Yeah,
it's very impactful.
right.
And so you kind of tend to let your guard down because you go on a few good dates and maybe I don't need to tell my best friend where I'm going. But ultimately, it makes for a good conversation afterwards, doesn't it?
Right.
I mean,
It does.
going on a date, your friend's going to want to hear about it anyway. You might
Right.
as well share the information. And it's like, you got the photograph for them to comment on and
Mm,
get a bit of advice. It's nice to get a third person, a trusted person to give you feedback on what they're seeing in the photograph and
that's
what
it.
your experiences are afterwards. So why not just send that beforehand
Okay.
systematically?
And I have one question that, is going off script a little, but I'm just curious about your thoughts. A lot of folks are talking today about this new way of meeting people through online dating or dating apps. And some people believe that we may be struggling to have good, healthy relationships now because we have too many options.
Oh
What
yeah.
do you think about that?
Well, it's called the paradox of choice. It's actually
Mm,
a very clear effect in the world. And in some ways, the dating industry is guilty of heightening this
mm,
effect. Because if you think about our incentive is, yeah, we feel good when our users meet people that they have beautiful, loving relationships with and go on to have many happy years with and have families with. That's the feel good. I think
mhm.
that's what many of us are in the industry for. But when it comes to keeping shareholders happy,
Right,
you know,
right.
we've got to monetize. We've got to show, the rubber's hitting the road, and we're
Mhm.
making sure that people are getting value and paying for that value at a fair level.
Right.
So our incentive really what makes us feel good is when people have these beautiful, loving relationships, but also we've got to keep the shareholders happy. What we
Mm-hmm.
do well, there's two schools of thought. If you look at eHarmony, they used to serve up very few, just a smattering of connections every so often. And if you look at other apps, they serve up a myriad of choice, so much choice. We are
Mm-hmm.
drowning in choice. And it's a game, right? And you're swiping. And
Right.
that's very good for keeping you in the app. It turns out, keep giving you lots of choice will keep you around longer, right?
Right. Mm.
So it's a paradox of choice. Beware. Yeah, and it's terrible in some ways because I think of matchmakers actually. It's a funny story from matchmakers.
Mm-hmm.
So I make it my business to know the matchmaking side of the house as well, right? You've got on internet dating, which is all on the apps, and then you've got real world matchmakers who
Yeah.
actually talk to you and advise you and introduce you to people. And it's like this is a very different industry. It's a very old industry, and so I've talked with matchmakers, quite a lot of matchmakers over the years, through the Matchmaking Institute and their conference. And one of the things that's always funny is if a matchmaker sends a client on their best possible date first
Mm-hmm.
up, it's a recipe for terrible. It's a recipe for failure.
Mm.
Simply because typically when a matchmaking client comes on board, they're getting like a year and they're getting a dozen, 2 dozen matches as part of their agreement. So if the matchmaker sends them on the very best date, the person that's most ideal in their database is terrible because the other they'll typically say, "This was great. What's the next date going to be like?"
Right. Right.
They don't commit
Wow.
with the first one. Number
Right.
three, it's
Yeah.
good to send them on the best date 3 in.
Okay.
Basically, is what
Okay.
matchmakers will say. So yeah, I mean, the paradox of choice is alive and well, even in the matchmaking circle, which has very limited choice.
Mm-hmm.
There's not so
Mm-hmm.
many people that they have in their databases, and yet they suffer from it. Well, suffer from it. They do suffer from it because
Right.
they want people off their books, which is interesting dynamic.
Mm.
Dating
Okay.
industry does not. We
Right.
kind of
Right.
want you to stick around. We want you happy, but we want you happy dating.
Right, right. That is so interesting. I never thought about it that way because, yes, people are always telling me, I think it's because we just have too many choices. People are
Yeah.
not able to really decide or commit to any one thing, or like you said, they're waiting for the next thing. That there's got to be the next thing that's better than this, and that just keeps happening. So it's a little disheartening to me because I want to see people be in happy, healthy, thriving relationships, marriages. But I've had some clients of mine who've been single for some time now. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's an interesting way of looking at it.
I
Okay.
think back to my club, and there's still people from my club. I was running it in my 20s. I'm
Mhm.
just turning 50
Mhm.
this year, and there's still people from my club that were in their 20s and 30s they've not pulled the trigger. And at some
Wow.
stage, you got to kind of sort of pull the trigger,
Right.
and
Right.
commit. And we do have an interesting dynamic in this day and age where people have had more choice and availability than ever before,
Mm,
and it's a conundrum. It's a conundrum.
yeah.
I mean, you got to go with what feels good, but another effect is the the halo effect.
Mhm.
Right? One of the things that we know is if you go on a profile and you see it's a moderate length profile, and you see, hey, he or she likes dogs as well, right? You
Right.
like dogs, you love dogs, you've got a dog,
Mhm.
you've got 3 dogs,
Right.
right?
Right.
You meet someone, oh, they must be okay. They're a dog lover as well, right?
Mhm.
So with a moderate length profile, you'll tend to look at things that you like and
Mm,
then fill in the blanks on other stuff that you're not sure of, that aren't clear, that aren't in the profile. And so the effect is you'll tend to go on that date. You'll tend to give that person a shot. We
right.
know if we do super long profiles, people put more information in there and people then become more eliminatory. And there's
Mm,
less of a chance that you'll
okay.
engage with someone with a long profile
Mm,
because you're finding stuff that, oh, he's a dog lover, but I don't like this.
right.
And the
Right.
opposite thing starts happening.
Right.
So,
Mm,
yeah, I mean, the reality of it is that the dating industry has set up a rubric for decision making that can be quite impossible for people to pull the trigger on, right?
mhm.
We give people an opportunity to have a long list. So don't be a list ticker.
Right.
There's a lot of things that are important. There are showstopper criteria. The key ones are you married?
Right.
Do you want to have kids? Do you
Mhm.
want to get married? These are
Right. Yeah.
showstoppers.
Yep.
And these questions we allow people to ask early on, which is fantastic. Just
Mhm.
if we did nothing else other than allow people to get those showstopper questions out of the way right up
Right.
front, we've done a great job.
That's right.
Right there.
That's right. Awesome.
But people go
So
a lot deeper than that.
right, right. So I just want to say thank you so much for taking time out today to talk with us and educate us on all things online dating and safety. That is super, super important. Thank you so much, um, Mark, for being on the show today. Is there a product or service that you would like to tell us more about or promote to the listeners?
Well, I'd recommend keeping an eye open for the
Mhm.
realme.com on your favorite dating app. And if you don't
Okay.
see it, maybe ask them why not.
Right.
And you can check out more on the Real Me by going to therealme.com/dating and
All
get
right.
a handle on what's
Awesome.
coming up.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, ladies, if you are not subscribed to the podcast, I don't know why. I don't know what's happening in your world, but please, please, please consider subscribing to the podcast. Um, and you can watch the podcast and the video to this on my YouTube channel, Better Love Movement. So, head on over to YouTube, subscribe to the channel, click that bell icon so you can be alerted every Monday morning when new podcast episodes come out. If you would do me the biggest favor ever, and please rate and review the podcast, as your ratings help me to grow the podcast and offer more free content to you. If you have a question you would like to have answered on the podcast, you can email it to me at info@betterlovemovement.com. And you can also reach out to me, find out about my products, my services, the brand new book that is out on Amazon now. It is called Choose Well, a simple formula to determine the best man for you. But you can learn more about all of my products and services over at my website, www.betterlovemovement.com. Thank you so much for listening this week. And as always, stay open to love.